I have been doing this since 1945. First, you cut a compass trace ahead of the main party, and then you move along it, slowly. It's like finding a way through fog. We average about a mile a day. It will take 2 months to reach the other river. Behind, a larger party widens the trail for the supplies to follow. And for protection, we work in armed groups. In jungle, you never see more than a few yards, so our safety from attack depends on the Indian sense of hearing. He's a born instinctive hunter, and every few minutes he listens to the world of animal sound. Every 2 or 3 days, we move our supplies to a new camp closer to the cutting head. And so we advance deeper into the jungle and closer to the area which must be hunted by the Kreenakrori. They can see smoke about 8 miles away. In rainforest, there's no fire without a man. It's vital to know exactly when the Kreenakrori know about us. Vultures have picked the monkey's skull clean. The Indians say it was shot by an arrow.
Não tem mais que uns 2 dias.
Não, tem menos. Choveu ontem.
Choveu ontem, né?
Ontem choveu. É de ontem ou de hoje.
Então eles estão aí, né? Amanhã ou depois.
Indians mark a route by breaking twigs, and it looks as if this line of twigs leads towards the Kreenakrori village.
Olha aí. Esse mais importante ainda. Olha aí.
We know they're here. You become tense and nervous. But how close and where? It's a feeling that can drive you mad. It drove 2 men mad on my previous expeditions. You know it's stupid, but you're tempted to search the jungle. This is a world of camouflage, and you're watched by 1,000 eyes. Soon you've a headache from focusing and refocusing your eyes. Really search for the watchers, and you go mad. In the jungle, you must walk within your own mind. I can't see the Indian who waits to kill me, but his image lives in my head. I have known that jungle Indians won't attack an armed and waiting party ever since my first expedition 25 years ago, when Orlando and I entered the unknown plateaus of the Roncador. The Shavanti Indians were famous for killing intruders, and we built palisades to crouch behind, and every man was armed. They screamed at us from the trees. Arrows dropped out of the sky. One man was nearly killed by a stone, and once they tried to fire the camp. On the savannah, I climbed a termite hill just in time to see a war party. But never, in 5 months, did they risk a frontal attack against armed and waiting men. And so we go deeper. And so the Cree Nakrori watch and let us know they're watching. The mark of one of the clubs. This begins a long and curious process of communication. I hang up presents which they refuse, but their minds are troubled. Can a present giver be an enemy? Doubt unhinges the reflex to kill. Of course, our Indians could discover their camp and I could walk in with presents. But I learnt that mistake 12 years ago, when we found the camp of the unknown Chickaw tribe. Indians are usually more alert, but that day, in the summer of 1956, I almost walked up to the first hammock. That's the last I saw of them for 8 years. Indians must find presents alone and without pressure. They are the opium of civilization and will create needs in the taker that can only be satisfied by the giver. And so we let them watch and ponder what they see as we crawl along our narrow tunnel. Like ants, we pursue a distant goal. Our eyes are blind to the watching universe around. Nobody who has not lived in forest can understand our relief at reaching the other river. It's not just the expedition's next means of transport, it's our first view. clear an airstrip like this with stone axes would take the Crianacrori 20 times as long. So such a climbing pillar of smoke will be seen by them as the banner of a new power, the coming of a kingdom that must destroy and replace their own.
The plane flies in men and supplies, and Orlando arrives to supervise the final approach. From the air, presents are dropped on the Crianacrori village, only 30 miles away. The presents are tied to balloons. It makes them less lethal to the Indians below. This starts the final raising of the pressure that must soon force a decision. As the village is entered, the men below will either have to run, fight, or make friends. But their reply now is, as always, indecisive. Two enigmatic pillars of smoke.
Because of the Crianacrori, no canoe, white or Indian, has ever moved on this river before. Of course, they could kill a few of us now while we're helpless, but I'm certain they won't. Our job is not to win fights, but to forestall them. So we have 40 men armed with guns, and that's like an armored division in the jungle.
Todo mundo sentiu nada ainda. Esse é mais velhinho, né? Quer dizer que eles moram perto, eles vêm sempre aqui, né? É uma prova. Recente mesmo, é de agora.
It's an old platform for shooting fish. And so the invader is creeping into the backyard, and the householder begins to tremble with fear and doubt. Almost anything could drive him to flight or violence. So we move slowly and very calmly.
Puxa vida, rapaz, olha o tamanho do pé desse homem aqui. Depois vou mandar um andar aqui pra ver como é que ficou. Primeiro deixa eu filmar. Parece que é só dois, né? Dois, né? apaga o fogo aí, apaga o fogo. Fique quieto aí, fique quieto.
It's just routine. Indians seldom attack at night. But if they're watching, it's good to show that we're watching too.
Daqui lá, uma hora, né? Uma hora ali. 4 quilômetros, não, de 4 quilômetros de avião, né?
De avião,
Bom, pela mata, né?
uns 6 quilômetros.
Tá a panela aqui. Vem aqui. Vem aqui. Tem umas panelas de frente. Eu vi. Então, vamos chegar. Vamos ver se tem gato de hoje por aí. Você que está descalço não anda por aí agora.
Aí tá mudando.
Saiu correndo agora.
Não dá riscando um pouco.
Me uni kami olite, yuti onde cortar na vez que eu toquei. Eu já vi o grito então, vamos gritar. Não, grita Caiabi. Não, Chicão, não. Chicão. Chuca na mãe. Olha aqui. Eu comi o banana agora, eu comi mais. Molhado.
Não é muito longe.
Oh, cadê vai?
Ya cosa acá. Yo Pepe yo. No me mayan, ya la veo pero mamera ya venido ya ni yo para ya venido vos. Pero te pecó vos, ve pe yo ve por fuera no que vos.
Olha, por que eu tinha tudo do mundo.
Ah, não, você escolheu foi tudo. Ia dentro da caixa.
Por dentro, né?
Vamos parar. Vamos. Tiraram. Vai levar tudo, então. Vocês levaram tudo.
Por nada.
E os colares aqui, ó.
Colar, panela, tudo.
Olha aqui, ó. Dia de noite. Não há dúvida nenhuma que eles não gostam de espelho. Olha aqui, ó. Olha.
Quebrado todo esse.
Olha.
Vai.
Quebraram os espelhos. Agora, que beleza. Olha aqui.
Esse daí, hein?
Olha
Os
que
aviões não
peça.
levaram também.
Esse daí.
Olha que peça de
Ofereceram as burdunas, né?
Olha aqui, rapaz. Cortaram com o dente.
É muita gente aí.
This is the first break, the first sign or hint of friendship.
Olha aqui, mas
We must take the clubs as an invitation and follow the trail that was used last night. It begins to look as if the Krina Crori are the sort of Indians who don't have a permanent village. They build rough shelters and move every few days from hunting ground to fishing ground, from plantation to plantation. So we play a game of hide and seek, in which of
olha cipó, cipó. Cipó.
we've found it. This is the one. That basket's for carrying food. So they were here last night. It looks as if they're just ahead of us.
Aí tem formiga demais, rapaz.
Obviously, we interrupted as they were packing to move. These baskets change our whole strategy. An Indian has few possessions. If he leaves them, he's really frightened. And if he's that frightened, any more pressure will drive him to the other end of the jungle. From now on, we can only wait and attract the Indian to us. What fear bites so deep that it justifies the loss of a stone axe that takes months to grind? Is it the old fear of the arrow against the bullet? Or perhaps it's a deeper terror passed down through the cone graves of their ancestors. There's a tribe that was contacted 4 years before Orlando and I reached them. 80% had died of flu, and the survivors were paralyzed with fear, gazing like rabbits at a phantom beyond their understanding. From this sort of fear, some of the tribes in Brazil's history have fled, never to be seen again. Probably the Krina Crori never had an epidemic, but they were harassed by diving planes close to Kashimbo. And it's easier to cure the sick or wounded than the fear that's fled from an unnamed terror and grown and matured in the dark isolation of the jungle. How will that fear be overcome? Will hunger eventually drive them to these plantations of potato and maize? Or is their terror greater than hunger? steel is the temptation beyond resistance. It's a miracle in the Stone Age, an industrial revolution for the jungle.
An airstrip is built and Orlando flies out. During the next phase, he will be looking after the Xingu Reserve. The expedition is divided into groups that work and that protect the camp. The Krianakrori must feel they can watch every detail, but that the expedition is too strong and too alert to be attacked. That went to the river saw 3 men. They stood silent on a sandbank about 600 yards away. They made no reply, gave no reason for showing themselves, and vanished enigmatically back into the jungle.
When Indians watch you, they signal to each other in bird calls. But if a real bird calls, our Indians can never resist the answering call. So you're haunted by the triple question. Is the call real? Is it us? Or is it them? In jungle, you search with the ears, not with the eyes. So nervousness comes from what you hear, not what you see. At last, after 6 weeks, they've had the courage. But what reason can there be, even in a primitive mind, to throw away the pots when you take the axes?
Amando, mais poucos, já não digo dias, talvez meses, a cara está aí, amigo nosso. Mas que beleza, levaram 12 machados, né? E 15 facões. Muito isolado, muito medroso, de tudo que é fora. Né?
From now on, the presents should be taken and replaced every few weeks. But exchanges like this have been known to last for months or even years.
It will go on for 5 months. But unlike the Krianakrori, rain is predictable. It has the known limit of April next year. If nothing else, it gives time to think. What is the problem of these Krianakrori, who've killed everyone they've seen for hundreds of years? Other Indians at least capture the children. The Kree kill everybody. They have therefore not only never met strangers, they've no experience that such meetings are possible. What it means is that an essential human idea is missing from their minds, just as many other things are missing from their society. Unlike the Xingu Indians, the Kree have never learned to make a pot, yet it's essential to most cooking. They can't make the mandioca bread, which is the staple of most Indian diets. And though they must have seen canoes, they don't know how to build them. They've never travelled on the great rivers and open plains that are the natural meeting place of Indians. And above all, they've never known the cultured life of one tribe in ceremonial contact with another. And so they crouch in the jungle until we come. They want to meet us. The idea of meeting us is against all their history. Thus, the Kree are now struggling with an idea as revolutionary as nuclear physics. In some camp like this, they're torn by confusion. And when the climax comes, it will smash the pillars of this society. When eventually they walk from the trees, they will already be new men.
After 3 months of rain, the village of the Presence is almost overgrown, and the hopes of a quick meeting with the Kree almost equally stifled. The last batch of presents is still untouched. The maize, long ripe, is still uneaten, and Claudio, worried by the delay, is growing nervous as he faces the possibility of a long siege.
As long as I am here, I am calling to them. In the emptiness of the jungle, my human nature is a magnet to theirs. In this way, human groups have always been drawn to other groups, till after thousands of years, all mankind lives in a world civilization. Only those with an extreme fear remain outside, and this fear thrives in the loneliness of the jungle. If people say every month shows its strain and need, then how much more the Kree who've been alone for hundreds of years. I must therefore remain patient and continue calling to a people who somewhere in the flooded, endless jungle are yearning for me. Nothing separates us but this meaningless screen of trees. But then, for 10,000 years, did anything more divide the rest of mankind?
Yeah.